Welcome to Story Smack. This is episode 74 of Story Smack. Story Smack is a podcast about stories and storytellers in the world of pop culture. My name is A.B. Sigler. I'm an audiobook narrator and a founding partner at Empty Set Entertainment.
And my name is Scott Sigler, #1 New York Times bestselling novelist, and either we heal now, here together as a team, or we die as individuals.
I love it so much. And you guys normally know this is the moment where I introduce the heart of Empty Set and our Story Smack and our Empty Set movie maven, Rob Otto. Rob Otto has a family obligation today. He cannot join us. He did send us lots of info about the script because he's the one who makes Story Smack sing. So we're super grateful for that. And we're going to raise a glass. Scott, I'm drinking Fresca, but Scott is drinking a shark bite. You have to turn it so that, it is probably all down at the bottom. You see this? This is a little bit of grenadine.
Make sure I don't spill on your computer. It's red on the bottom if you guys can't tell that.
So you make the shark.
I got a left shark and I got a thresher shark.
You got an orange shark and a left and a right shark. You got 3 sharks in the bowl. Yeah. But a shark bite is a rum drink. It's very much like a hurricane. But you drizzle grenadine on the ice and then you stick fake sharks in there, so it looks like sharks have bitten something in the water. So because, of course, Any Given Sunday's team is the Miami Sharks, I made him a shark bite.
It's very good.
So we're raising that glass to you, Robbie.
Hello,
we
Shane.
miss you.
And that's actually my, when I'm a bartender at rap events.
Oh, what?
D-Rizzle. That's my bartender name. D-Rizzle. Okay. Put a little drizzle on that business.
Wow. I'm going to say he hasn't actually started that job yet, but I'll be excited. So, okay, Nocturnus, this drink is a drink you would have loved to have in college. It's so good. It's sweet. So easy drinking. Sweet. It's so
Rattle
sweet.
out the recipe quick and we'll get into the rest of it.
It's dark rum, light rum, sour mix, which is sugar, water, lemon, and lime
and those
juice.
of you listening at home after the fact, there are actual sharks in my drink.
Little plastic sharks in the drink. Because
my girl is the best. I got plastic sharks in this electric blue drink. It's a very Miami type thing. It's great. This
is one of those drinks that if you're on a boat in the summertime and it's balls hot, this is a great drink. If you are at a party and you're 19 years old and you're in college, this shit will fuck you up. But anyway, enjoy it. It's a pretty fun drink, and it's very blue.
All right.
So we are here today, of course, talking about stories and storytellers in the world of pop culture. As you know, this week we are talking about the 1999 release, Any Given Sunday. You guys, this hits on so many levels. So many levels. But before we begin about the how it hits and who's in it and who directed it, can you give us the movie guy?
I love the movie guy. Mm-hmm. 4 years ago, a man, Tony D'Amato's Miami Sharks, were at the top. Now his team is struggling with 3 consecutive losses, sliding attendance, and aging heroes, particularly 39-year-old quarterback Jack Cap Rooney. Off the field, D'Amato is struggling with a failed marriage and estranged children, and is on a collision course with Christina Pagliacci. Gosh darn it.
Pagliacci?
I even put the pronunciation. On a collision course with Christina Pagliacci, the young president co-owner of the Sharks organization. In a world where there's 2 more teams in Miami playing football. All right, let's go.
So you guys know this. We always forget to say this, but this time I remember. We're talking about Any Given Sunday. We are going to spoil the shit out of Any Given Sunday. So if you haven't seen it since 1999 and you want to watch it, you have to turn this off until you're done.
Baby, give me the financial breakdown of the movie.
So, again, like I said, made in 1999, Any Given Sunday cost $55 million to make back in 1999, which is about $89.6 million in 2021 dollars. And it made $100.2 million at the box office. So it
pretty good.
Doubled its budget, and that is absolutely spectacular.
And I think the rule of thumb is you take the budget of the movie, 50% of that, you take the budget, then multiply that by 50%, and that is the amount of money that's spent on promotion.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that's in the budget.
No, it's almost never in the budget.
Often they don't put the marketing budget, the post-production budget in the details. But
so even with a $25 million promotion budget, still cleared $25 million, which is great.
Oh, it's absolutely great. Hit. And it's also it's a legendary movie. It's made by a legendary director. We're going to talk about it. It stars so many people you've seen 10,000 times.
So, high level, baby. What is your favorite part of the movie?
Okay, so for me, I'll never get over it. There's this beautiful moment in the sauna where Lawrence Taylor's character is talking to Jamie Foxx's character, Willie Beeman. And Willie Beeman, as you know, if you've seen this movie, he's like the young, brash quarterback who is literally delivering the goods. He was a third-round draft pick. He was all this other stuff. And yet he shows up and brings it all home. And LT, there's a moment where LT's character, who's literally knows this is his last season, knows he just needs to do these 3 things to make his bonuses and stuff like that. That's all he wants to do. He wants to rush a handful of yards. He wants to make a tackle. And he wants to get through the game without getting called out. And he has this beautiful speech. And there's a line in it. He says, when a man, because of course football is all men, but it resonates with me as a human. And it's this. He says, in that speech, he says, when a man looks back on his life, he should be proud of all of it. And LT goes on to talk about not just the time that you were on the grass and in the cleats, on the turf and in the cleats, like your whole life you should be able to be proud of. And that's a huge motivator. That's a huge thing about how we live our lives and how Empty Set works. We want to make cool stuff for cool people. We want to look back and be pleased. We might screw up, but we want to be pleased. And I think that's what LT's saying there, and it moves me quite a bit. What about you?
Of course.
I know, it's great.
My wife's doing this super high-level philosophical quality of life analysis. My favorite part is Willie Beeman throwing up.
But tell me more about that.
Well, I frequently when I would wrestle in high school and get super worked up, I would have to pee before matches, but I had sort of forgotten about that. Like I wrestled 126.
Yeah.
So the 119-pounders would be out, and I'm like, I could be on the mat in 10 seconds, and be on the mat in 2 minutes. I would have to run to the bathroom and pee because I was just so amped up and so nervous. But when I was writing The Rookie, book 1 of the GFL series, Krakens, what's up? I kind of forgot about that until I watched Any Given Sunday and watched Willie Beeman getting so nervous he would throw up before he really could get into the game.
Right, before he could let himself go and kind of do the work.
Those 2 things were the combined inspiration for Quentin Barnes. It's Quentin has to pee before games, which we talk about a lot in the books.
A lot. But also when he's trying to get to the game.
Yeah, he's motion sickness. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to add that in, both things, because they both mattered to you. The Willie Beeman part of throwing up, I thought, people always... Nobody in space in sci-fi ever seemed to cover motion sickness. Like there's a lot of people in general. You fly, you get motion sick. My ex was motion sick from traveling. My wife and I was motion sick from traveling.
All the time.
It was constant. And you think about flying spaceships and going into warp space and punch drive. People are going to barf. So that movie helped inspire one of the anchoring aspects of Quentin's character, that he gets motion sick when the thing jumps in a punch space. It makes him more real than if it hadn't happened.
And you guys are probably like me. I honestly didn't connect that Quentin, when he's coming up out of punch space, throws up. I never connected it to Any Given Sunday. And likewise, I never connected the second that Quentin is in the pocket, he has to pee. Or the Quentin, not in the pocket, when he gets in the zone, when he gets in he has to pee. I never connected that either, but it's a beautiful little homage to you as an athlete, as a younger athlete, and also... last thing I'll say about it, used to make me so friggin' nervous. I'd be fine. I was like team captain. I was all ripped up and buff. Were you team captain? I didn't know that
wrestling?
Until today.
Yeah. And ready to go into battle. And then right before the match, I'm like, what if I beat myself? All right. So we have, we got to go.
Nice to see you.
We have an enormous amount of characters to get through, enormous amount of actors. We're going to go through that so we can talk a little bit about the ascent of the black quarterback in the NFL and a lot of the problems that happened before that and where things are at with it now. But first, we got to go through this incredible cast.
And without Rob Otto here, the two of us, I am the movie person here. I watch many more genres and have been and much more a student of the art. Nowhere near Robbie, but I'm going to do my best. So I will say from the get-go, this is absolutely an Oliver Stone joint. And that is not a thing that Oliver Stone uses to call his movies. That is obviously the provenance of Spike Lee, a Spike Lee joint. And why I say that is that Spike Lee actually talks about the Spike Lee joint as being, he is bringing not just his acumen as a screenwriter, a director, an actor, or whatever. He is bringing his entire self to the movie. That's why he calls it a Spike Lee joint. And I posit that this is an Oliver Stone joint. Yeah. He's in it, and he's not always prominently in all of his movies, but this is him in. He's one of the broadcasters in Any Given Sunday, and he brings all of his actual normal Oliver Stone things to this movie. He is very invested in the script. He's very invested in the characters. He's very invested in the process of them getting into it. He also literally has the star power to fill this entire movie with huge, powerful people. So what he did is he adapted a script from a John Logan script that was supposed to be a made-for-TV movie. He merged Logan's project with a football film called You're Okay. You're Okay, It's Just a Bruise. I'm sorry. You're Okay, It's Just a Bruise. That was a tell-all book by Robert Hunzinger, a former team physician on the LA Raiders. And you might see Dr. Ollie. Dr. Ollie is a lot like this guy. And in January 1999, Stone held a training camp in Miami for the actors and the actors and the athletes in the film. Alan Graff, a member of USC's 1972 championship team, and the film's second unit director, football coordinator, and stunt coordinator, was in charge of that entire camp with Stone. Graff filmed practices, and then they reviewed the footage with the actors, which, knowing you, I know is a thing that you did every day. I never played football or never was around football, but apparently that is how you do everything, even in high school.
You film absolutely everything, so you can review it and see it from a distance, have coaches go through it with you. But for this was critical because this isn't just some high school football movie. This is supposed to be a former championship team in a pro league adjacent to the NFL.
To be an NFL, right?
So everything had to look good. We'll get more into that as we go.
Yeah, of course. So this was the first Oliver Stone movie since 1981 that Robert Richardson was not the cinematographer. And this happens a lot in movie making where you sort of appreciate their both combined talents. But in this movie, Robert was working with Martin Scorsese on Bringing Out the Dead at the time. So Salvatore Totino got the job, and this was his first feature film. And Salvatore Totino goes on to be a DP for a lot of films, which is awesome. And then Stone would often ignore the call sheet, which I love. This is a moment in Oliver Stone's life where he is so powerful as a movie maker and has delivered the goods enough times that he's literally like, everybody's got to be on set, and I might ignore the call sheet, which is insane in movie making. It's insane. It's so expensive. But what he wanted to do was keep everybody on their toes. So sometimes he would ignore it and call a different scene. And
do you know what that's parallel to in the movie?
No.
Do you think about it? That's Willie Beeman not running the plays that are called.
Exactly right. I never thought about that. That's so cool. And the only other thing I'll say about Oliver Stone, other than if you're an American, if you're not an American, but you appreciate American cinema, watch Oliver Stone movies. But this one is super special because also he had so many opinions, and he really wanted, at the beginning of this thought, he wanted Charles Bronson to be Tony D'Amato, which I can't even imagine how that would work, but I know it would be awesome.
It would have been very, very different. So let's now talk about the star of this movie, in my opinion. There's so many stars, but the star is Jamie Foxx, who just crushed this role. The two people that stood out the most in this movie to me were Jamie Foxx and Lauren Holly, who had a very, very small part, but oh my God, she brought the heat.
Absolutely.
But Jamie Foxx, he has won an Oscar for 2005's movie Ray. Which is after best act. Well after this. But at the time he's cast as Willie Beeman, he's producing and starring in the Jamie Foxx Show on the WB. He was 33 when they shot this movie. He does not look 33. He looks very much the 27, 26-year-old that Willie Beeman was supposed to be. And Willie Beeman, he said third-round draft pick early. He's a seventh-round pick. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what happens to, what in the past, what happened to black quarterbacks from smaller D1 schools who would tear it up on the field. And then when they make it the NFL, they would be tried to be forced into a different position because they're extremely fast and extremely athletic and supposedly didn't have the mental acumen to run a football team, which we now know is a bunch of crap. But it was a big problem back then. So, yes.
The thing you just said about Jamie Foxx is so amazing to me. He was running an entire TV show. He was the executive producer, literally in the name,
he's brilliant.
the star, and an AD. He wasn't the whole director because he had a showrunner. But he was doing that live for 5 seasons. It was in the middle of that 5 seasons when he did this movie. What an amazing actor.
And the whole time he's recording music. He's put out 4 albums. He's won a Grammy for his work. He's had 4 albums chart in the top 10 of the U.S. Billboard 200. This is a multi-talented guy. Yeah. And on top of all of that stuff, the acting, the producing, the music recording, he is clearly a talented athlete. You watch him on the field.
Oh, for sure.
He sells everything. Of course, if Oliver Stone is shooting it, even I would look like a pro caliber player.
Oh,
but
shit,
Jamie
even
Foxx,
I would look good.
Look, he'd be a solid lineman.
Yeah, I would.
But Jamie was amazing, and loved his performance in this. Really, I felt really captured a lot of frustration.
This is the moment he won an Oscar for Ray.
Yeah, for Ray.
For his performance of Ray Charles.
But his performance really captured the frustration a lot of young athletes have when they jump to the pros and are forced to do something out of their skill set, something they have not trained for their whole life.
We've talked about this a ton. We've seen this happen, like literally watching football games. We saw it when we went to Arizona and we watched young players kind of walk out on the field and for the first time be in an NFL thing. And you talked about it the whole time, like, oh, that poor young man.
Yeah, it's very difficult, very difficult. Ooh. But a great story from the film. LL Cool J reportedly actually punched Jamie Foxx in the face for one scene. Foxx reportedly filed assault charges. Nothing came of it, and the two are friends today. The best part is Stone got pissed that the crew stopped shooting to break up the fight.
Yeah, that sounds totally
Oliver
like
Stone is such a savage.
He would have rather had missing the art.
He would have rather had 2 Grammy award-winning A-list actors beating the crap out of each other in the set so he could capture a few extra seconds of film. Yeah.
And I gotta mention it.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
I have to mention it. Jamie Foxx is one award away from the EGOT, and if you don't know that, that's an Emmy, an Oscar, a Grammy, and a Tony.
Yep.
And he doesn't have a Tony because, of course, this is not his world. But here's the thing: I think he could get there. We're going to talk about another EGOT later.
Here we go. And now moving on to another guy who kind of subtly stole the show. I thought Randy Quaid's performance, or Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
Very different people.
Very different people.
Dennis Quaid's performance was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dennis Quaid goes into this entire movie knowing he's the also-ran, knowing he's the old guy, knowing, and still making that powerful and human and important. And this is a perfect scene. This is actually... He's literally saying, please don't make me do this, coach. Please don't make me do this. I can't. I might die. I can't. But he's not saying those words because those words would put his coach in an impossible position.
He actually does. He does say. Like that's
no, that's not that scene. That's when he's at home.
That scene is so tragic. The first one, we'll go back to it.
It's terrible.
Because he's telling his coach, this is a guy who's won a Super Bowl, and he's telling his coach, I heard all the time, and sometimes I just shake. And that line just kills me because in my limited athletic career, I've given up on combat sports, boxing and MMA because I've had 2 pretty significant injuries.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel that pain anymore.
And what's crazy about that is I have never played a contact sport in my life because I have congenitally bad kidneys. And I feel that because a couple of years ago, I woke up with a frozen shoulder, which is an actual thing. You should Google it. But
crazy. All
of a sudden, I can't do my normal things, which is not running the 40-yard dash in a certain amount of seconds or completing enough. It's literally nothing sports-like. It's making dinner, like so many things. So to think at 39 years old, this character, Cap, is 39 years old, and he's literally saying, I'll do anything for my team, including die, but I don't want to die. And Tony Amato kind of ignores him.
Tony Amato needs him.
It's terrible. This is beautiful. This is actually this discussion where he's saying, like, I'll do anything, I shake all the time, but I'll be there for the team.
Look how ripped up Quaid got for this. He looked like a pro quarterback through and through.
And in this particular scene, Tony Amato says, I knew you'd be there for me. Like, all he does is say yes. What I love about
Tony's a shitheel. In this entire movie, Tony Amato is a shitheel.
Okay, but cool. This particular photo, Cap Rooney's house is actually Dan Marino of the Miami Dolphins, his actual home, which is where they shot this scene. So this is him probably around the time that came out, or a little bit older.
No, I think this is more closer to today, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, you guys know he has had so many wins. He was in Breaking Away in 1979. That was his debut.
Great movie.
He was in The Right Stuff. He was in The Big Easy. The Big Easy, what a great, terrible movie. I mean, it's a pretty good movie, but it's got a lot of flaws, but it's beautiful. Inner Space, which was super fun. Great Balls of Fire, which he should have been nominated for.
So great.
And Dragonheart, of course, in 1996. He has been called more than once one of the best actors never to have received an Academy Award nomination. And I couldn't endorse that more. He should have gotten nominated for Great Balls of Fire.
He just was so perfect in this role for Any Given Sunday.
Yeah.
Just a sweethearted guy who happens to be really talented, great leader, leads by example, plays through pain, does anything his team wants, and he just doesn't want to do it anymore. And he does it anyways.
And he never shits on his teammates.
Never. No,
never. Even though he could. Like, that would get people to listen to him if he was like, yeah, I'm not going to do it because Willie's just going to ruin it.
Yeah.
He might have gotten heard, but it wouldn't have done the thing.
Jen Sherwood in the house coming in and say hello.
Hey,
right in time
Jen
to talk
Sherwood,
about
nice to see you.
The villain of the movie. Now, many people think this is the lead protagonist. I disagree. This guy has no morals whatsoever.
And he has an Iago, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay. Okay, that's right. He does.
He does.
Okay. So we're going to talk about, of course, Al Pacino. He has been acting since the 60s, career spanning 5 decades. He's received more awards than we can count. Academy Award, 2 Tonys, a Primetime Emmy. He's one of the few performers to receive the Triple Crown of Acting. He's also Triple Crown of Acting. Mm-hmm. He's also been honored with the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award, the Cecil B. DeMille Award, and the National Medal of Friggin' Arts. Pretty good. Al Pacino was at Denver Broncos training camp in 1998, observing head coach Mike Shanahan, Super Bowl winning coach with the Broncos. So we got to watch how a lot of this stuff is done. But if you guys have watched this movie recently, or if you ever go back and watch it, it is Oliver Stone does some master work in portraying this guy as the sympathetic protagonist, and he just uses everyone. He goes back on his word left and right, and all
including himself.
Including himself, his family, his friends. He screws over Quaid. He's going to screw over Jamie Foxx at some point, and it's a really great performance.
There are 2 things that I am so impressed with. I mean, obviously, if you're not impressed with Pacino, you are fronting. You are fronting in a troll. There's something
You're fronting in a troll!
You can find something in Pacino's career that you love. I swear that's true. And if you don't like anything about him, you are fronting. That said, there's 2 things in this movie which I find so powerful. One is he is one of the only point of view characters where Oliver Stone gets like this in this particular photo, you see here.
This one?
No, the one that we were just, that. Often in movies, Pacino started as a stage actor. Several actors in this movie did. But he started as a stage actor, and this is a thing that happens very often in camera work that doesn't happen in stage acting, where he is right up close to him. And what Pacino's doing is acting literally with his face. It's a very uncommon thing. Stone doesn't do it with a lot of players or a lot of actors in this movie, but he does it with Pacino because it works. And the other thing about this is D'Amato literally sells out himself. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what he wants. All he wants is the win. All he wants is to be relevant once he's dead. And he does that without even knowing it in this movie. He doesn't care. He sells out his friend Cap. He sells out his newest, strongest player. Like, he sells out himself. It's so amazing. And you watch that whole time, and it's so interesting because I watched that. We have, This Is a Game of Minutes speech, which we'll talk about in a minute, and was totally moved after I watched him totally sell everybody out, including himself, for 2 hours.
And now we move on to, let's go to here. Sorry, guys. Go to here.
That's him winning.
Pictures.
Yeah, that is him winning his Oscar for Scent of a Woman, which I needed to include because it's so powerful.
Go into this place. And now we get to Cameron Diaz, who I think if you want to know what Oliver Stone's real talent is, there are no bad performances in this movie. Everybody's good. Everybody is. Lawrence Taylor, who is a football player, not a trained actor, has one of the best performances I've ever seen someone portraying an athlete to make, someone who really communicates what it's like to break a bone and go out and play anyways. What
Yeah,
it's like to cut off your own finger to stay on the field. That's all Oliver Stone. And Cameron Diaz's performance, and she, of course, she's a rock star to start with, but she killed
and don't move from this photo for a moment, because Cameron Diaz, of course, comes into this movie. She plays Christina Pagliacci. Christina Pagliacci is the daughter and now the president and co-owner of the Miami Sharks. Her father was the president, CEO, and co-owner of the Sharks before he died, which was before this movie started. And now she's obviously in her late 20s, trying to be this person. She's an MBA in business. This is a scene where she meets Willie Beeman for the first time, and the first thing he says, also naked from the pants down, or from the belly button down. First thing he says is, hey, if you're ever interested, I'd like to take you out. And she spends this entire time looking directly at his face and saying, I make it a deal. I make it a thing not to date players. Now, what's beautiful for me about this performance is Oliver Stone is absolutely this guy that you said he is. He's a guy who never lets a bad performance in his movies, no matter who, but also he never makes it hard for the actors to be really ruthlessly themselves. And Christina Pagliacci is a very young, very beautiful woman in a very cutthroat job, in a very cutthroat league, in a very cutthroat industry. And there is never, not one time in this movie is there, you look cute in that. Oh, didn't you want to put the tits on display? There is nothing. Oliver Stone makes her hateable. Yeah. Absolutely, without making her like a young, beautiful woman. And I find that so powerful. Like, he makes her exactly like her mama, exactly like all the owners, without relying on the easy method. And I find that
which is easy
powerful
to do with her.
And this is obviously Cameron Diaz in her
she's a gorgeous human being.
She has retired from acting, which I also respect a lot, because she decided that she could either act or she could have a life. And so this is actually her in her afterlife, in her non-acting life. And I'm super excited because he did such a good job with her and made her ruthless and cutthroat without making her kind of bitchy.
Right.
Let's move on to maybe James Woods. Sorry.
Oh, okay, of course. And then Cameron Diaz in The Mask, Charlie's Angels, Bad Teacher.
Yeah, I was going to cut that out because I forgot I put this photo in there. We got to put this photo in there. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I've never loved an actor or actress more than this moment. To know that she goes out and sells this role with the jizz pompadour is just as like, that is
She read the script with the jizz pompadour. She fought for the part with the jizz pompadour. And then she did it. Great. And look at her face. She's not like, no, don't mention it. Don't mention it. She's literally like, baby.
She's acting her ass off.
What do you need? There's nothing wrong. Oops.
And now we
great.
Move on to James Woods. James Woods he had acted in 67 plays before achieving his Broadway debut in 66. Has gone on to be nominated for 2 Academy Awards, one in Best Actor for Salvador, the other in Best Supporting Actor for The Ghost of Mississippi. He is the recipient of 2 Primetime Emmy Awards as well. His character in Any Given Sunday was characterized as an unscrupulous team doctor who often looked the other way. Probably very similar to the source material that this came from. Dr. Harvey Mandrake was James Woods at his slimiest, and James Woods very good at playing slimy dude.
So good. So can you go back one?
Yep.
I love this shot too, because again, obviously, Cameron Diaz looks great. We don't talk about that. Also, James Woods looks a little less great than he could with the all the things, and we don't talk about that either, which I love. Also, Mandrake will kill ya.
I didn't know
Mandrake
that.
will kill you. Mandrake the plant.
Dr. Mandrake, walking
Ignore
poison.
what you know from Harry Potter. Mandrake will kill you.
Walking poison with a clip-on Nextel on his belt and a fanny pack.
So, don't leave it to Oliver Stone to not tell you exactly what you would think, but he named him Harvey Mandrake.
Mandrake, though, does have a Pantheon Cup ring for doing his job, so he's doing okay. We move on to, we only have one picture of this young man. He's very accomplished, too.
I know, but Ollie, this is Dr. Ollie Powers, and he works for Mandrake. He's one of the other team physicians, and he's the one who's sort of saying, like, we're killing these people just for ratings. He doesn't say it exactly that way, but he does reveal to Al Pacino that one of his players was cleared to play erroneously. And Al Pacino has a moment where he can be completely righteous because that information was kept from him, and he does that thing. He's like, get off my field! You're all out of order. He doesn't actually say that. Out of order. And he kicks Harvey Mandrake off the team or off the crew. And it's a beautiful moment because it's so stinking hypocritical of Tony D'Amato to do that. He knows that Mandrake has been making it okay for them to play with Christina Pagliacci's agreement. And that one moment where he gets to look at Matthew Modine and be righteous, he does it because that works for his players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It kind of works for his players and it works for the media and all that stuff. So it's sort of interesting. Matthew Modine, as you guys know, has been in 1 million things. We've reviewed Vision Quest, which if you haven't seen with Loudon in it, you should see.
Loudon swing.
Yeah, there's so many
hold
things.
Your mud, Loudon.
Yeah, he is. So, Ollie Powers, obviously, this is the only photo we have of him from the movie. He is a physician with a heart of gold who is caught between his oath to do no harm and the player's definition of harm. And we see that with a conversation with LT, where LT is like, dude, harm for me is not being able to provide for my family. I have $126,000 I can get if I just...
Oh, it's $1 million.
Is it 1.6 million?
If he meets his bonus, he gets $1 million.
Okay, so yeah, which is literally one more tackle. And you see this moment where Ollie Powers, Matthew Modine playing Ollie Powers, actually sees that harm that's hard to assess.
Two phases of this really capture a lot of things that go on in the NFL. The people willing to sacrifice themselves and people happily looking the other way if they can have their top player. And then you watch the gradual corruption hinted at of Ollie's character, who starts out being the heart of gold guy and then gradually is like, well, if I just fudge this guy can play. And it's a gray area. Do you let the guy play so he can make $1 million for his family, or do you not let him play so he doesn't die on the field?
And you make a terrific point because it's a corruption. It absolutely is a corruption, but it's a very graceful one. He's like, I mean, he doesn't care if he dies if his family is taken care of. But my job is to do no harm.
Yeah.
And so those two things don't match up. And if I let LT out there, he might die. And in fact, he doesn't fare well. But it's an interesting thing because I think we all face a moment like that in our professional careers or whatever, when we realize that the thing we thought existed doesn't exactly exist. And he does that really well. So I wanted to recognize that.
Now moving on to some of the super cool elements of this movie is getting actual players and legends. We're not going to talk about Mike Ditka, but he's in it. There's a lot of other NFL guys who are in it. But
and as coaches too, right?
They have usually you have them as coaches. But we've got Lawrence Taylor on the left, Jim Brown on the right, arguably the greatest defensive lineman to ever play the game on the left, and universally accepted by everyone who actually knows football, the greatest running back of all time on the right, better than Emmett, better than Barry Sanders, when Jim Brown in his brief career with the Browns was unstoppable. He broke the mold, and to this day, he is the most dominant running back. And
I think if you don't even know football, you know him as a good dude.
He seems like a good dude. He got out of the game a little bit early. He went into acting. He did Mars Attacks. He's been in The Running Man. Mars Attacks. One of the breakout roles for him, of course, was he was in The Dirty Dozen. Really, really great to get him into the movie. And he had a great scene where he got to sit down and talk with Al Pacino about how, of course, now you guys, it's hard to have sympathy for NFL players now. And NFL players at a 5-year career should have at least $1 million in the bank unless they're just being idiots with their money. And for workaday people, that's hard to appreciate. But back when Jim Brown played, there weren't $1 million salaries. The people who got that kind of money were very few and far between. Mm-hmm. And most people didn't even make enough money to pay their health care bills long term. So he gets to talk about that. And then on the left, Lawrence Taylor, a man with a stellar Hall of Fame football career and also very troubled personal life. But Lawrence Taylor getting to have that sauna scene and getting to talk about, how difficult it is to be. This is a blood sport. If you are playing professional football or college football at any level, it is a blood sport. You are going to get hurt. You're going to have to play through the injury. And at some point, you are going to have to weigh the odds of your future health against your current career. I got out of wrestling in college because both my knees were swollen up like the size of volleyballs. They were gross. And I was like, this is going to impact me when I'm older. And I got out when I was a sophomore.
Even since I've known you, you've attempted to get back into BJJ or boxing or whatever and made that same assessment. Yep. Like, okay, I have other things I want to do with these knees or elbows or wrists or whatever, and had to make that hard decision.
I consider if I wake up in the morning and nothing hurts, I'm delighted. This is going to be a great day because almost every day you wake up and something hurts. And that's a lot of us just getting old. Everybody gets old, things hurt. Sure. But these guys, anybody who's played at least 3 years in the NFL, their life is constant pain to a large degree. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. Nocturnus said he loved Quaid in Pandorum, which was underappreciated as a film. And absolutely, I think that
could have been such a better movie.
It could have been such a better movie. I do think it was underappreciated as a film for what it was. I think if it had the right budget and the right crew, it would, or, director, DP, all that, it would have met the script, how it should have met the script.
Could have been good.
That's what I think.
Related to the players, the NFL refused to help with the movie, discouraged players from trying to be in it. They even filed a lawsuit, which helped delay production by 8 months. And almost every non-actor on the field has been paid to play football at one time or another in the NFL, Arena League, USFL, or Canadian football. And I think that added to the legitimacy of the movie quite a bit.
Here's the thing I'll say that is unrelated but still true. We got to watch the San Diego Fleet as long as they existed in 2018 and 2019 in San Diego, and they were an AFL team. And now the AFL is sort of not a thing.
AAFL.
AAFL, sorry. And it's interesting to watch the difference on the field between college football, AAFL, and NFL. And to sort of see that every player on that field was literally showed up to play. Because in all the differences aside, the fundamentals are all still the same. So they showed up from the CFL, they showed up from the XFL, they showed up from the NFL, and they were ready to work. And that means getting hurt and getting hit. Pretty much every time. They were like, yes, please, let's do this. And I love that. I love that dedication.
Terrell Owens was also in it. We saw him catch 2 touchdown passes, although he wasn't a face. He didn't have any actual dialogue. But let's go over it now. I got to come back here and do this. The amount of star power in this, we have to rush through this. We have to rush through this pretty quick.
Yeah.
We got Anne Margaret, 2 Academy Awards. Oh, go ahead, babe.
This is Anne Margaret, of course, 2 Academy Awards, made a bunch of movies with Elvis, is absolutely a rock star of acting, and she literally plays a minor character. There's another.
Well, this is Lauren Holly.
That's Lauren Holly.
We don't have a lot on.
Well, she is actually a small actor too, but at this point, she has earned out from TV. She has earned out from movies. She is a rock star. In 1999, she is at the top of her game, doing great work.
You just hated her,
and she chooses the role where you hate her.
Her scene where she slaps Dennis Quaid in the face.
It's terrible, and
I almost can't watch it. It's just like you watch Dennis Quaid, both of these two at the top of their game. You watch her completely dominate that scene, and you watch Super Bowl winning MVP Dennis Quaid crumble. It's fantastic work. Yes.
Did she do that for him or for her? The character, not the actor.
The character, she did everything for herself. She was doing that for.
You think so?
She was telling herself it was for him, but she has a guy who has. You look at their house, you look at their money. He rattles it off. He's like, "I provided for our kids. College is paid for. Our home is paid for. We're set for retirement." And she. It's not about the money. She can't give up the lifestyle. She can't give up the status.
I agree. What's interesting is, spoiler alert, this is how this ends up. He survives that game and does fine with no lasting effects. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you 100%. She's doing that from a selfish place.
Very, very selfish.
But
she thinks she's doing it for him.
Right. And at the end of the day, she did it for him because he retires on top. He literally retires winning that game. He's not going to play in the playoffs or in the finals. Sorry. Mm-hmm. He goes out on top.
He goes out like a warrior. Yeah, he does.
But I think she did it for her.
To me, she did. We also have in this movie, we have Aaron Eckhart, who was very much on the up when this came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And has gone on to be bigger things and Two-Face and everything else. And,
yes. Two-Face, I forgot about that. Thank you for smoking. He's done great work.
Exactly. He's done great work. But at this point, he's just breaking out of the indies.
Yep.
And absolutely, Oliver Stone is like, oh, yes, you I would like. Please be a minor character in my show. And he ends up with the head coaching job of the Miami Sharks at the end of this movie, and it's a total non-moment.
Yeah, he got his thunder stolen, which Al Pacino's character knew it was coming. Everybody saw it was coming.
Which is how this movie goes, right?
Look up Dallas Cowboys coaching history.
Exactly right. Like there's this moment in, I don't think it's just for football. It's in every single industry, which is, oh, you won, but it's not going to feel good. So you can either win, or you can feel good and get fired by saying, you don't deserve this and whatever.
The star power continues, of course. Whoops. I have to figure out how to fix this.
Oh, I didn't see you had it. Sorry.
And then we've got Charlton Heston, for crying out loud.
My goodness.
Playing a tiny, tiny part, but Heston won 1 Oscar, was nominated for many awards. So in just the bit characters alone, there's 3 Oscar wins, 7 Oscar nominations, and just the 4 people we've gone over right there. It's absolutely incredible. And then there's so much to cover.
Good.
We got to get into this group. LL Cool J, Bill Bellamy, John C. McGinley, three great people. LL Cool J's first acting part was in what? Did you know this? Wildcats. His first role was in a football movie with Goldie Hawn, also known as the Ted Lasso of 1986. Same movie.
Also, one of Pacino's 2 Oscar nominations was in an Oliver Stone movie in 1986.
There's a lot of stuff going on. And then we've got Bill Bellamy.
Love that
who
photo.
was
Come on.
Bill Bellamy has, out of all these people, in my opinion, the single biggest claim to fame of anyone in this movie. And that's saying something. Bill Bellamy, of course, number 1, successful stand-up comedian, very funny guy, happens to be a cousin of Shaquille O'Neal. Bill Bellamy is credited with lock, stock, and barrel, no argument. He invented the phrase booty call. Bill Bellamy invented the phrase booty call. He developed it in one of his stand-ups, and that now has become institutionalized as a part of the English language. Congratulations, Mr. Bellamy.
I must apologize ahead of time and say, you said Bill Bellamy, the star of all of this, and I was like, oh, honey. And I was about to be like, oh, say your thing, and then you did that. And I can't argue.
And then finally, one of my favorite actors. Oh, there's more LL Cool J. There's LL Cool J.
Oh, look at him at the
awesome.
Kennedy Center honors.
Yeah.
What?
LL Cool J has been nominated for 9 Grammys, won 2, has been a now successful TV star for 20 years. Just a beast of the industry. But ladies and gentlemen, there's Bill Bellamy, and of course, the biggest asshole in the world. If you know what I need? I need an absolute asshole that everybody wants to punch in the mouth. Get McGinley on the phone. McGinley can come in here and knock that out. He was incredible in this. Platoon, Office Space, Scrubs. Just he's made a career out of being a douche. It's incredible.
Here's what I think. John C. McKinley said this. I'm going to have this red hair the whole time. And people only like red hair on women. Like, people only crave red hair on women. Red hair on dudes seems shitty. Have you met Ron Weasley?
Look at that.
Okay.
Look at that goatee, though. Bright red goatee.
But he does this his entire career. He does it in Scrubs. He does it his entire career. He's like, fuck it, you guys. I'm angular and redheaded, and I'm about to rock your world. And it's great.
His part of Jack Rose is based on Jim Rome, who has made a lot of money being an obnoxious guy, who famously got smacked on a show by Rams quarterback Jim Everett. And I've seen that clip. If you haven't seen that clip, that dude deserved to be punched in the mouth.
You're talking about Rose, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about Rome and Rose both. Rome was trying to get a reaction out of Everett. No, he got one. All right, so now we go back. Now we got to talk about this real quick. Let's go. We're going to go back to Maine. We're going to talk. We got 15 minutes left. This is good. We have plenty of time. This movie came out in 1999. And while there had been very successful black quarterbacks in the league, this is pre the ascent of that is a black quarterback playing at Clemson, playing at Alabama, playing at Michigan. Like, that could be a first round pick.
Absolutely.
Now it's a non-brainer. Back then, this was not the case. The contemporaries for Willie Beeman were Rodney Peete, running quarterback. Warren Moon started out as running quarterback, but got beat up, not so much. Cordell Stewart for the Steelers. Charlie Batch, who played for the Steelers and the Lions. The perfect example for Willie Beeman. Charlie Batch came in, was a backup quarterback, got a chance to start, and he could run like nobody's business. He was a smart runner, scramble for yards, always get a first down, always slide and not take contact. I remember being a Lions fan and watching, and they forced him to stay in the pocket all the time, and he got lit up by staying in the pocket. Like, you could see a space open. Charlie Batch's instincts were like, I'm going to go run and get a first down, move the chains.
But they made him stand.
They made him stand in the pocket, and he just got obliterated, and it ruined what could have been a fantastic career.
And I know you've got more to talk about, but I want to say, as a person who didn't appreciate football until quite a lot later. And so for me, Warren Moon, or also absolutely not so much Charlie Batch, I don't know a lot about that, but for me also Donovan McNabb. Those are people that I can look back on in my non-fan history, because my brother and stepdad were big fans, and be like, oh, yeah, no, they were kind of sort of lit up and pawns, sort of. And what's interesting about that is your next guy kind of, I think, changes a lot of things.
Donovan McNabb changed a lot. Don McNabb, 4 Super Bowl. He just Hall of Fame, incredible career, but big, strong, fast, can run, can throw, brilliant on the field. He brought everything to the table. So the guys I'm mentioning now were guys who kind of broke the mold. There was resistance when they started Donovan McNabb, when they started Warren Moon, and those guys proved themselves on the field. And of course, we get to Dante Culpepper.
That's the one.
Who at 280 pounds looked like a tight end. That is the physical prototype which Quentin Barnes of the GFL series and the rookie is based on Dante Culpepper. Because when Dante Culpepper stepped on the field, he looked like a lineman. He looked like a large tight end. He did not look like a quarterback. And he had a brilliant 10-year career playing primarily for the Vikings. And a lot of people think of Willie Beeman. They think of Michael Vick. Willie Beeman predated Michael Vick in the pros by 1 year. And the reason I'm so fond of this movie is because Oliver Stone and Jamie Foxx tackle a lot of things, the unspoken stuff at the time. Willie Beeman comes in the league, and he's from Southern Methodist, I think, and not a top-ranked program at the time, very successful, but he comes in and they force him to switch to the one play receiver, the one play slot receiver, because he's fast, he's got great hands.
And that's what they know.
And the catchphrase, he's very athletic, which is one of the... It's not so much anymore, but back then that was one of the phrases that might be applied to, he's a great athletic guy, but he's black. He can't run a football team.
Which they only say he's athletic.
They would say he's very athletic.
And do you have any idea about this? And I know we've talked on this cast before about your pops and his experience playing football, but are there any moments where, he's very athletic is a thing said about black players, but not said about other players? That's
a wag that's still in sports media to some extent. If you listen to some of the more outspoken black sports journalists, they will say that still pops up quite a bit. I don't see it as much anymore because now you've got a lot of white guys doing the same thing at quarterback, which is when there's a scramble, they are gone, they take off, and they're powerful runners. So now it's not quite the same thing anymore. But even in the 90s, there were still thoughts in the league that a black quarterback couldn't be a championship quarterback. That is the basis for Quentin Barnes.
Yeah.
So a lot of Quentin Barnes in the rookie is, he's from the purest nation. He, great, he's big, he's fast, he's strong, but he doesn't have the mental horsepower to be able to have a championship team. So when Quentin comes in the league, he's very much a parallel to some of the odds that the top-level black quarterbacks were up against, and franchises just wouldn't give them a chance to go out and be a field general.
It wasn't that human being. It was the general idea, the false idea of...
The stereotype.
Thank you.
It was the stereotype.
Yeah, the stereotype.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is you see somebody like Cam Newton today... off the field, and I'm specifically speaking off the field, is LL Cool J's character. He is. He wants to be spectacular and visible and showy on purpose. He still delivers on the field. Like, he does all those things, and I find it kind of interesting that life imitates art in that way.
And life imitates art in this way, too. So now, at this point, there have been 3 black quarterbacks who have won a Super Bowl. Of course, the first one was Doug Williams in 1988 with the Washington football team. At which point, just shocked a lot of people. Doug Williams came in and just whooped it up, at a great season. Russell Wilson in 2014, Patrick Mahomes in 2019. So only 3 at this point. But what's really interesting to me is now, in 2020, the league set a record with 10 starting black quarterbacks. Again, we're paralleling this to Willie Beeman and the Miami Sharks. Out of all the teams, there are only 10 that were black starting quarterbacks, but they're all very, very, very talented, dominant guys. Cam Newton, of course, has dropped down a little bit. Teddy Bridgewater's back on the ascent. Dwayne Haskins, Lamar Jackson is crushing it. Patrick Mahomes is crushing it. Kyler Murray should have a breakout year in 2021. Dak Prescott got the huge deal from Dallas. Tyrod Taylor, Deshaun Watson, we'll see what happens with him, and Russell Wilson, who's still one of the biggest all-around threats in the entire game. That guy changes games instantly. So that's all. That's very interesting that Any Given Sunday came out when it did, with the message it had, when it had that message, and now we see things have changed dramatically. I mean, like that was 30 years ago, 1999?
Yeah, it was 1999.
So it's 20 years ago, right?
Well, 99 to 2000, 2000 to 10, no, 30
years ago. So all of the quarterbacks we were talking about right there, I don't think any of them were born when Any Given Sunday came out.
And what the beautiful thing is so many things. So you're going to say, of course, football is always about, if you're a person who is not a football fan, the argument is like it's just a game, which is objectively true. It is just a game. Nobody dies if you fail. At the same time, it is a game you chose for your career, and that is the thing that supports your entire family and probably your extended family if you're talking about football.
It's generational wealth for some guys.
It's generational wealth in a way that they couldn't have got it before football. Number two, yeah, okay, you don't like football, that's okay. I don't like international espionage, but that's still a career. You can have a career. There can be good in careers that you don't appreciate, all these things, but so often because it's so available to you as a I'll call a layman or whatever, I spent an enormous time of my life completely, football was irrelevant to me. And I am lucky because I never was like, gosh, they're just playing a game or whatever. But you have this job too. Whatever your job is, you are choosing to make that important. And that's what they're doing here. But they risk their bodies and their future and their lives in a way that I don't, being a publisher. And, you know what I mean? So it's still valid.
And even the actors in this were risking themselves. Football, it can't be faked. You can see a hit on the field. You can magnify it with editing tricks, but you still got to have that hit. The players or their stunt doubles were actually hitting and tackling and blocking. Stone put cameras where they had never been before. He put a face mask on a pogo cam and ran with it to show a running back's point of view. He put a doggy cam on a player's shoulder. Steady cam operators were sometimes trampled. So because you can't control when those big bodies hit each other at that force and that velocity, people fly and they hit the wrong guy.
We were watching last night, and two referees got bowled over. Poor guys.
And there was so fast-paced. Yeah. There are over 3,000 editorial cuts in the movie.
Absolutely, yeah. So the NFL was absolutely opposed to this movie. They not only worked to they had an injunction that tried to get them that they were trading on a trademark. It took 8 months to resolve that. They weren't trading on a trademark, so they actually filmed without the NFL's cooperation, and they filmed, therefore, at Orange Bowl Stadium in Miami. That served as the Miami Sharks, who are the professional football team, that served as their home stadium.
There's some great cast notes here. Sean Puffy Combs was originally cast as Willie Beeman, but scheduling conflicts caused him to drop out. However, some say the football people started working with Combs and he was so bad at throwing that they had to replace him. I find that to be a little bit more believable than Sean being like, bro, I'm busy. I can't be in an Oliver Stone
But
play.
I have something to say. You guys, I have something to say. Sean Combs is, oh my God, what is he, like a quintuple threat? Like, he's such a powerful businessman. He has changed so much about the industries that he's worked in. I'm kind of glad. He can't throw a football.
I don't think this is the right fit.
There's something wrong with him. There's something he can't do. He can't throw football.
There's one thing the dude can't do. Chris Tucker was offered the Beeman role, but turned it down. I do not think that would have been successful. And then Cuba Gooding Jr. auditioned for Beeman, but since he already played a football star in Jerry Maguire, Oliver Stone didn't want him. And Cuba could have done it, but I think Jamie Foxx is the subdued rage Jamie Foxx has in the conversations with Al Pacino on the field. When Al Pacino's trying to tell him what to do, and Jamie Foxx just not making eye contact with him, like, yeah, boss, whatever you say, when he already knows what he's going to do. I think that's that athlete attitude, chip in the shoulder that Jamie Foxx captured extremely well. I think Cuba could have done it, but I'm not sure about the other guys.
I completely agree with you. Obviously, we know Cuba Gooding Jr. can play a role as a football player who wants to win. I'm not sure that I think I could have seen Cuba Gooding Jr. as Willie Beeman, having seen him already. And I know that's unfair, and I know that's on me, but I still think that's true.
He probably could, but every role we see him in, he's more sweet and lovable, where Jamie Foxx just brought this subtle chip in the shoulder that was incredible.
Yeah, they did also do this, changing actors. They did consider for a while having Tony Amato have a sequel where he's at the Albuquerque Aztecs. That never came to fruition.
they're very, very, it's super expensive to shoot football movies. Something I wish I had thought of when I spent so much of my career writing The Rookie is then when there is movie interest that people take one look at and be like, oh, we can't afford this. That's a $300 million film. I'm like, gosh darn it. And the most important part of the movie, next to the fact that booty call was coined by one of the actors in this movie.
Very important.
The word fuck is said over 110 times. The movie averages one fuck at least once every couple of minutes.
Absolutely. So you guys, you know that we're big, big, big fans of football here in this house. We're big fans of movies here at Empty Set. And Any Given Sunday is a terrific, terrific meeting of the minds for both of those things. So this actually is the end of Story Smack number 74. We talked obviously about Any Given Sunday. And next, wait a minute. We got news for you guys. So we always do Story Smack on the second Saturday of every month. The next second Saturday is September. And in September, I'm pretty sure we will be shipping The Gangster, Scott's GFL book 6, to you guys. So we are not going to do a September, which would have been September 11th. We're not going to do that one. So we will be back instead on October 9th. That's the second Saturday on October. Rob Otto will be back with us, and we will be talking about Ghostbusters, you guys, because there is a Ghostbusters sequel or trequel or something in the offing.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently now Ghostbusters is Stranger Things. There's no escaping it.
Yeah.
It's one of those strange things. You're like, wow, the original movie was incredibly popular and one of the top 100 movies of all time. Made a ton of money. So let's do a sequel and make it completely different.
I'm not mad about it. He might be mad about it, but we're going to find out.
We'll
who's
see how
right.
it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
All right.
So until then, you guys, again, we are not here on the second Saturday of September because we're going to be shipping Scott Sigler's The Gangster to you guys. So this is the end of episode 74 of Story Smack. You can find Scott and I online. Scott is at Scott Sigler on Twitter and on Instagram, and his Facebook page is facebook.com/Scott Sigler. I am at A Real Girl on Twitter and at a.real.girl on Instagram.
You can find us online at facebook.com/StorySmack. Sometimes I update it, not all the time. We live stream Story Smack every second Saturday of the month at facebook.com/Scott Sigler, except for September. We'll be doing it in October. You can watch this. If you're listening to the podcast after the fact, you can see us at facebook.com/Scott Sigler, twitch.tv/Scott Sigler, and youtube.com/Scott Sigler.
In addition to Story Smack, every Wednesday we do a live cast from 6 p.m. Pacific time to 7 p.m. Pacific time. That is called Sigler in Place, and you can watch it wherever you're watching this now if you're watching it live. If you're not watching it live, you can go to facebook.com/Scott Sigler, twitch.tv/Scott Sigler, or youtube.com/Scott Sigler.
And we release an unabridged episode of a serialized novel every week. One of my novels, unabridged. You can get episodes for free every Sunday via iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Just go to scottsigler.com/subscribe for the links.
And you guys, the most important part here. Okay. So Scott has started a new show. It's called Monster of the Week. It's a half an hour. It's on Friday afternoons at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook. I mentioned all those places before. It's 30 minutes long. He always has a guest. This next guest, I believe, next week is Dr. Phil Plait, the bad astronomer, and they talk about a monster. This week is the ants from Them, and it's so cool, and you should check it out on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook. And so we hope you subscribe. I'm the one who's supposed to talk there. So we do hope you subscribe so that you can get Scott's books and more Story Smack and more Monster of the Week and all sorts of goodness in the future.
So until the next episode of Story Smack, we will talk to you all real soon.